G'day everyone, welcome back. This is lesson 2 on the development of personality. Please don't forget to highlight and date the lesson heading here, which also features your syllabus dot point as it does every single lesson. So it's very important that you date and sign and check that off. So personality. This is a little bit different to identity in that it's a facet of identity. So as I sort of said last lesson, personality is the things that you would use to describe yourself or how someone might describe you, their values, their characteristics and traits that you might have. That is not necessarily tied to what we might even call your physical identity. It's very much the elements of your social identity that come about in your personality. So, without further ado, here we go. So there is a myriad of influences that affect our personality. Now, myriad here means endless. Okay, so if you want to annotate above that, it's endless, it's ongoing, it's limitless, infinite, right? So a myriad is there are so many influences that affect your personality, and it's very true that it's very difficult to count them all. So it's much easier to say there's a myriad. So we are products of our environment, of our parents and how they were raised, because their core beliefs and values is very much dictated by how they were raised. Naturally, of course, that changes over time. I know that there are some things that I was raised with that I am not going to necessarily teach or impart onto my future son, but in the same way that my parents, what they raised me that I like, I'm going to pass on. They've still influenced me even in things of how they've raised me that I don't want to pass on, because that's still shaped consciously part of my personality in the fact that I don't want to pursue those things. And that can be just as important as learning what you want to do. It's taught me what not to do in some cases, and I might, find myself regretting that later, but that's sort of the thing that can be important to note as well with your personality. You're not just taking things that you like, but you're also learning from the experiences that you don't. Of our society and its changing values. The society is changing all the time, and that can influence our personality, and it's changing a lot rapidly in our contemporary world that we live in. Of the people we interact with as well, and of our own life experiences. So all of those can shape your personality. So you might, or have you ever had a friend who is a completely different person when they're around X, or you're a completely different person when you're surrounded by Y? So we all have those people that we can think of, or other people that we can see act differently around other people. And whether that's a good or bad thing, like I'm sure you guys have a different personality that you would portray to me than you would with your mates. So, and then you would with between other mates. So it's very much can be driven by the people that you interact with. In some situations though, we behave and are expected to behave in particular ways, which shapes our personality. So those expectations, if you want to draw an arrow up there, are social norms. Okay, so the social expectations or norms that are created, and I don't know if you want to draw an arrow here as well, they're influenced by culture, so our values and beliefs. And that can shape our personality too, because we might not necessarily agree with a particular element of society, but in terms of how we're expected to behave, we still do it anyway. So you might personally say in class not believe that keeping your AirPods out or putting your phone away is going to help you concentrate on your learning, but it is an expected behavior from you. And those sorts of things can shape your personality. You might get aggressive when someone wants to take your phone off you, or you might not get aggressive and be fine with it. All of those are sort of the personality traits that can be shaped by social expectations and norms. Whilst in other situations, we can behave differently and portray that should say different. That should say different there. We can behave differently and then portray a different personality. So very much our identity and the social cultural self can change and adapt. Your personality and the type of person that you want to show yourself as can change between different social norms and expectations as well. For example, how your parents would describe your personality is very different to your friends or colleagues at work. I often see this at parent-teacher interviews. where parents have a very different idea of who you are than I do, and that's because of the different personalities that you portray. Now, some people, it's the same and more or less the same, but for some parents I interviewed, they're very shocked at how sometimes I would describe you guys as I know you, and because it's just so different. And how they describe your personality is because they see different constructs of you. So that last one there, construct. So they see different social constructions of you. It's because your personality is very much something that can be developed, it can be created, it can be almost artificial to some extent, or fostered, depending on who you're with. However, there is a very cool way to find out what kind of personality type you are, and again that links to your identity. So what I want you guys to do in this next activity is go to this website, which will look something like this, and there is a Likert scale or a rating scale questions that you'll just use. You regularly make new friends. So green is the extent of which you agree. Obviously this is, I would make new friends all the time, whereas this is, I completely disagree. I don't make friends very often. And then here is your classic sitting on the fence. So depending on what you want to choose is the extent of that. And you just keep going through all of these questions next. And what will happen at the end of that is that it will spit a personality type out for you. And this is the specific psychological or psychometric term for it. If you're interested and you want to observe, I guess, a bit more of the theory and the why behind this, feel free to check out the framework page on this website too, and it talks about all the psychology and science that goes behind it. But I guess it's very valid. It's based off Carl Jung and the Myers-Briggs sort of research here, so it gets the best of both worlds, and it is really quite accurate. So every time I do the quiz, I get this personality type and the protagonist. So for me, I've got the there's 5 key personality sort of traits that you'll get a mix of depending on what you are. So mine is typically that I'm more extroverted, intuitive, feeling based and judging personality traits. Now that's not judging as in like shame on you, I'm judging you. That judging is more to do with confidence, you're self-assertive, you're able to make judgments about the path that you want to take in your own life, sort of thing. And then the last thing is whether the A or the T, if we go down here, if you want to look into it more, the A and T is more about your identity. Are you assertive or turbulent? So this idea that my personality type is more the extroverted individual. What was the next one? N, meaning so I'm more intuitive, I'm imaginative, open-minded and curious, as opposed to more pragmatic and down to earth. I am more of a feeling person than I am thinking, so I'm more emotionally expressive and empathetic to others, as opposed to being more rational. That's not to say that you don't have other elements of this, but it's sort of talking about what you're more likely to lean towards. In terms of my decision making, I'm very decisive, thorough and organised, as opposed to being flexible, non-conformist and like to keep my options open. I really do like to know what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. And then that last one here being assertive as instead of turbulent. I'm more self-assured, even-tempered, resistant to stress than I am more sensitive to stress. So the cool thing about this is once you get your personality, it'll give you a bit of an introduction on who you are and talking about, and again, it's never going to be 100% accurate, but you will be, I think, shocked at just how accurate it does describe you. It'll talk about anything like this. It'll give you, I guess, a list of famous people that are like you. So, I'm Barack Obama, Oprah, Malala, Jennifer Lawrence, Sean Connery, Daenerys Targaryen, Morpheus from The Matrix, which is pretty cool. Skylar White from Breaking Bad. I've actually hated her character, so that's a bit insulting for me personally. But you can sort of see it'll give you some fictional characters who are very much like how you are as well, which is cool. It'll give you your strengths and weaknesses, I guess, what you're really good at, what are some things that you may need to work on. I'm a bit intense, a lot of students have said that sometimes about me. It will give you ideas on your romantic relationships, what you look for in a partner, your friendships, what you might be like as a parent, what career paths might suit you, which is cool, what you're likely to do as a workplace habit, and all those types of things as well. So it's a really cool quiz. Once you've done that, I would like you to answer these 6 questions here. So I want you to tell me what personality type you are. When you finish the quiz, it'll give you your percentages as well. I want you to list some famous people that you are similar to. I would like you to describe your personality type below here. So look at all the elements and then write a summary of it. Which personality traits do you think are similar or dissimilar to your personality? So if you think they're all similar, you could write something like that, but I want you to go into a bit more depth about saying why it's similar or why it's dissimilar, so why you think it's not right. I want you to tell me whether you agree or disagree with it, why not. And then I would love you to compare your test results with your mind map that you've completed from last lesson. You know, did the personality traits that you listed, the values, knowledge and skills, did that align with the ones that the test gave you? It would be interesting to see. Really looking forward to reading this. I think it's one of my favourite lessons to do. So enjoy that, and I'm curious to see what personality types you are. Until next time.